Hello. I am at the moment in London, in Highgate to be precise, and today I've got to drive from London to Edinburgh. Now, this opportunity has never arisen before where I've been in London and I've got to get to Edinburgh. So I thought, you know what I'm going to try and do? I'm going to try and drive along the A1 from start to finish. Now, I've got to make it into the city to Aldergate. So I've got to find a way to Aldergate. There's a particular roundabout that I need to find to start the journey. And then I'll finish in Edinburgh. I don't know the exact location in Edinburgh yet, but I think by that time I'll be sick of the A1 anyway, so I'll want to get off it. But that is the old route from London to Edinburgh, an old coaching route. The Romans beat us to it anyway. The Romans had Ermine Street, which went from London to York, and then from York to Edinburgh they had Deer Street. So they were thousands of years ahead of us, but obviously it's not the same route, and the A1 has been upgraded over the years to allow us a more direct route rather than going through villages and towns and whatever else. So I'm going to go and find this roundabout in Aldergate in the city, and then I'm going to set off. If you want to come along, watch the video, and hopefully I can sporadically and periodically fill some information in about things that I'm passing along the way. You never know. It might be interesting, it might be dull as ditch water, but I've never done it before, so I'm going to give it a crack. So here we go. The A1 in its entirety. And also, I'll tell you how long it bloody took me as well, because I can imagine it's going to be a while. There we go. First obstacle. Like I said, I'm in Highgate. I've got to get from Highgate to Aldergate, and it's just told me on the maps it's 5 miles away. Wonderful. The downside is it's going to take me 34 minutes to drive 34 minutes to drive 5 miles? What? And I'm going to take my jumper off because I imagine it's going to start getting warm. What sort of city is this? Also, I came through Muswell Hill this morning. Does Liam Gallagher live in Muswell Hill? Pretty sure he does. Let me know. Right, I'm here. I'm at the roundabout, which is the start of the A1. Now, I'm going to put into the sat-nav, Edinburgh. City centre, see how long it takes. The roundabout, it's at Barbican. So, I'm going to set off now and see where we're going to go. Right, it doesn't want to take me on the A1, the sat-nav. So, we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and follow some signs. Just to the right of me is Barbican, which is a massive estate. If you don't know, there's all sorts there. You've got like performance areas, there's a university, you've got offices and residential. Come on. So this is me getting out of London now. It did say on the other route 7 hours and 7 minutes, and that was 404 miles. So let's see how long it actually takes when I'm trying to find my way without a map through one of the busiest cities in the world, quite honestly. Anyway, let's have a look. See if I can follow the signs like in the good old days. See if I can do that. Plenty of pubs around here, so you wouldn't be thirsty if you lived at Barbican, that's for certain. Catch up here in a bit. We're just going past the National Autistic Society. Now, I didn't know that was a thing. But a big shout out to anyone who's got friends, family members, children who have autism, because it brings up a certain amount of challenges in your life, and well done for getting through them. So we're just coming through Islington now, the home of my favourite MP, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn. But Islington's pretty. We've just come past the market, Chapel Market, pretty cool place, plenty to eat and drink and all sorts of stuff to do. So Islington is a pretty cool, happening place. Oh, it's got some rather big speed bumps though. So now we're leaving Islington behind and we're into Holloway, gradually creeping our way through the city of London on the A1, which was previously known as the Great North Road, and previous to that, in medieval times, was just a coaching road, or it was many coaching roads really, all linked together to make one long road eventually. Now then, all along the route I've been going past a lot of pubs. Now obviously, back in the horse-drawn coach days, there would have been coach houses with accommodation and refreshments for weary travellers along the route of the old coach roads. I wonder how many of them survive, if any of the older ones are still in operation from back in the 16th and 17th centuries. We've come through Holloway, now we're up into Highgate, where I started off, and we'll see which borough we hit next. Right, we're just coming through Barnet. Now, Barnet used to have a horse fair back in the day, and I imagine the coaching route would have been pretty important to the horse fair, which is probably why it was set up on that, in this particular area, because there was plenty of green space, but also there was it was on the route. It was on the route north out of London, and that's where we get the saying. Oh, I want to be in that lane. That's where we get the saying, Barnet Fair for your hair, which I haven't got a lot left of, but that is where the saying comes from. So when people say, look at the Barnet on him, that's why. Barnet Fair. So what we've got to do now is just momentarily, you've got to go onto the 406, the North Circular, which then takes you, so then you veer left and you go off towards, up towards Brent Cross. And then we'll be getting out towards sort of, oh, what's the name of the bloody road? The place. Edgware and places like that. And then we start hitting the A1 proper, which is sort of motorway-ish. And then we'll be on our merry way through the home counties and further north to pastures new. So I'll see you in a bit. Now then, the road I've just turned off is was called Watford Way, and as plenty of people in the north realise, all you Londoners, Watford isn't the start of the north. There's still a lot of southern England before we get to the north. So we've just come through Mill Hill, and we are heading out onto the A1 proper now. But I'll tell you what a fantastic time to leave London. It's taken me, well, it's still taking me about 3/4 of an hour, but last week I did more or less the same journey, and I think it took me an hour and a half. So if you're planning on leaving London at any time, either do it in the middle of the night or do it at 11 o'clock in the morning, because That was alright, that was. Right, I'll catch up with you soon. Just one more thing. Look at that. Sweaty pits. Just leaving London now, obviously. And it is 11 degrees. Now, it's going to take me about 7 hours to get to Edinburgh, so I should be arriving around 6ish. What will the temperature difference be? If any, there might not be any, but what do you think the temperature difference might be? I generally do this when I go and pick my daughter up, and she lives in the northeast of England. So I go from Norfolk to the northeast of England, and the temperature drop is usually quite significant. So if I remember, we'll see what it is. And I'm not gonna sort of Google it or anything like that. I'm just gonna be, well, I was gonna say pleasantly surprised, but I doubt it'll be pleasant. It's more than likely gonna be freezing, probably raining, maybe even snowing. Who knows? Scotland, after all. So we're now coming up to the tunnel that goes under the Hatfield Galleria. I think it's a shopping centre. I've never been, and it is 3/4 of a mile long. Here we go, see how fast it takes me to get through. Starting now. How fast was that? I've just found a button on the van and it puts it into like hyperdrive, it says. So I reckon I was doing about 300 mile an hour there. Pretty spectacular for a 2-litre Transit. Quite happy with that. There's the turn off for Welwyn Garden City, and the only thing I know about Welwyn Garden City is, apart from the fact that it was one of the new towns built to incorporate the overspill from London, is that Alicia Dixon's from there, and the only reason I know that is because I was watching Celebrity Juice once, and Keith Lemon, or Lee Francis, asked her where she was from, and he was quite shocked. So there you go. What an interesting piece of information. Now, we're coming up to the turning for Nebworth. If anyone asks me, anyone mentions to me Nebworth, I automatically think of Oasis. But they weren't the only people to play there. Depending on your age and the era that you grew up in, there was the 1970s, Led Zeppelin's famous appearance at Nebworth. In the 80s, Queen played there. It was one of Queen's last performances, or was it the last performance? In the 2000s, obviously, was it the 2000s or the 90s? Oasis. 2010s, Williams, Robbie Williams. I had the misfortune of watching him at Sandringham last year. Oh, I think his time was most certainly in better days, in days gone by, should I say. And then obviously the main man, Liam Gallagher, returned there a few years ago to rapturous applause. We tried to get tickets. We almost got tickets, but it was the weekend that we got married. Cheers, Liam. So there was a few guests at the wedding who didn't turn up because they had work, or because they were the kids were poorly. Yeah, we know where you were. Anyway, there's another historical part of the A1 Great North Road trip. I don't know what we're coming to next. Peterborough, I think. Possible. The next place of note, anyway. I suppose Peterborough's got a cathedral. And isn't there ground called London Road? So maybe that was one of the routes through. It went through, the Great North Road went through Peterborough. Obviously the A1's changed a lot over the years, route-wise, to make it easier for the heavier traffic that now travels on it. Because it sort of fell into disrepair as the Great North Road, the coaching road, when the Industrial Revolution happened and you had the trains. So the internal combustion engine hadn't been invented yet. So cars, wagons and whatever else weren't a thing, but you had a train. Now, obviously a train is quicker, can pull more loads over greater distances in a shorter period of time. So the horse-drawn carriages of the medieval, of the 14th, 15th, 16th century sort of, you know, started to peter out. The 1700s as well started to peter out as the railways gained in popularity. And then when the internal combustion engine was produced and cars were produced, the congestion on the Great North Road began. So it was then moved away from towns and cities to give us a straighter, more direct route with roads that then led into towns and cities, which is basically what we're on now. A main highway, a main thoroughfare from not top to bottom, but a good chunk of the country. The journey that I'm making today from central London to central Edinburgh, it's taken me about 7 hours. I might stop off, get something to eat. That'll add a little bit more time. So let's say 7.5, 8 hours on the outside. In the mid 1700s, the journey from London to Edinburgh would have taken anywhere from 10 to 14 days by horse-drawn stagecoach. And obviously that was due to the road not being a continuous thoroughfare. You had to, it was weaved in and out of villages, towns and cities along the way. 100 years later, by the mid 1800s, we had quite an improvement. 4 to 5 days, so halving the time. That was due to the improvement of the road, producing a more direct route. So yeah, you can see how it's dropped over the years. 2 weeks to get from London to Edinburgh. I mean, good grief, that's unreal. That's enough time to drink yourself stupid in Ayia or Kavos or Ibiza. Well, not Ibiza, because you can't drink yourself stupid in Ibiza, seeing as it's £18 a pint or something. But it's, you know, it's a holiday. You can fly to the other side of the world, spend 2 weeks and fly back in the same time that it took someone in 1750 just to go from London to Edinburgh. How we've progressed. Oh, isn't that sunny, look? It's actually gone up to 12 degrees as well, so that's nice, isn't it? I'm still waiting for the drop as we get through the northernmost counties of England, and then into Scotland itself. But yeah, we'll see where we get to, see what's available to talk about. I've just come through, past a village called, well, it says on the sign Buckden, but the locals pronounce it Bugden. There's been a village there since the Doomsday Book in 1058 or something like that. So it is a pretty ancient place. In the 17th and 18th centuries, there was a lot of coaching inns, and there was a coaching inn called the George, which had the accommodation, but also it had a forge outside of it, obviously to either re-iron the wheels of the stagecoach, or shoe the horses, not tell them to bugger off. And there was a few others. The Spread Eagle in Buckton, strange old gaff. But yeah, that village has been on the Great North Road for, well, before the Great North Road existed. But in the 17th and 18th century, it would have been a very, very busy place, which brought a lot of wealth. And there's Bugden Towers, which is a fortified dwelling there, whether it'll be classed as a castle, I don't know. But that just goes to show you that along with that road and the travellers on it, it brought prosperity to people who, let's face it, Bugden's in Cambridgeshire. It's not near a major river, so the trade before those times came along rivers. So once that road turned up, that would have been like the lottery for that town. And now it's just a sleepy little village again, because the road goes past it basically on a bypass. So I'm on the A1 proper now, 4 lanes of super highway, 12 miles from Peterborough, and then I'll be heading into Nottinghamshire, is it? I think that's the next county from Cambridge. So I'll be into Nottinghamshire, possibly Rutland, I don't know. So we're just coming up to some services. I think it's the right ones, yeah. Now those services there on the left, if we have a glance to the right hand side, there is a travel lodge. Now, I was once staying in that travel lodge, and over the road in those services is a pub, believe it or not, for the truckers. So I said to the lads who we were staying with, fancy going for a pint? Yeah, no problem, let's go. So we had to traverse the road. Now we jumped over the central reservation and ran across the road. I know it's not the safest thing to do in the world, but that's what we did. I think we had 3 or 4 pints and then made our way back. Now, one of the lads cut it rather fine as he was crossing the road, and a wagon narrowly went past in the outside lane when he was crossing. He got to the central reservation and the backdraft from the wagon spun him round and landed him on his arse. And it'll have been doing 56, 60 miles an hour. That just goes to show you how dangerous those things are. Knocked him off his feet, just the wind, not the wagon didn't touch him. It was just the backdraft, the wind off of the wagon that put him on the bottom. If you're going for 3 or 4 pints when you're crossing the A1, just be careful on the way back. The first 100 miles are complete, and we are driving through Rutland as well, so I was right. Over the years, when I lived in the northeast of England, I travelled this road a lot to get back down to London and Cambridgeshire and places like that. So the stretch that we've just driven on the last 10 miles was past Burley House, where they have the horse trials. There was a lot of roundabouts, and sometimes you could be stuck for hours depending on traffic, just waiting for the roundabout to clear and get you on your way, you know. So it was summertime, we were going on holiday, and I was working with my father at the time, and he was driving in the van going back home. I'm in the passenger seat. And over 2 weeks, we decided to lose a little bit of weight. We were going on separate holidays. I think I was about 25 at the time. And we decided to do this diet. And it was for obese people who needed to lose weight rapidly to have operations. And it was controlled with particular foods. And on the Wednesday night of the end of the 2 weeks, you ate, Wednesday all day, you ate eggs, 9 eggs, that was it. And then on the Thursday, you ate steak, loads of protein. So we had a lot of steak, eggs on the Wednesday, a lot of steak on the Thursday. And then on the Friday was fruit. So we pulled into a supermarket, stocked up on some fruit, and we were driving home. And the reason this happened was the eggs obviously stopped you going to the toilet. I don't know what the protein thing was, whether that the chemicals in the meat did something to the fat in you, but I don't know what it was all about. But it did work. I lost a stone in 2 weeks. But the fruit salad, or the fruit on the Friday driving home. So we got oranges, kiwi fruit, peaches, and various other things. So my dad, as he was driving, he just chopped it all up and put it in a Tupperware dish next to him on the seat and was eating it as like a fruit salad. I was just eating each particular piece of fruit. And we're driving along, radio was playing, maybe having a bit of a sing, having a chat. And then, at exactly the same time, and I mean exactly the same time, we both sort of went quiet and then looked at each other like, we need to find a toilet quickly. And we were panicking, so, and I don't think phones with sat-navs were a thing at the time. I think you could use the internet, but they weren't smartphones like they are now. So we got the map out and we're looking to find a village or a town that maybe had a supermarket or something. We managed to pull off the A1, found this place, I think we went into a disabled bay, which we shouldn't have, but it was necessary. Ran in to the supermarket. Luckily enough, there was 2 spare stalls, and yeah, you can imagine what happened after that. Wow. So I can only assume that it was designed for that reason. The citric acid in the fruit got rid of it all. If the wife watches this, she'll be disgusted by it, but these are just things that happen, aren't they? When you're trying to better yourself and lose a bit of weight. So anyway, we're driving through Rutland now, and I think we then hit Yorkshire. I don't think you go into Lincolnshire on the... Or do you go into Lincolnshire on the A1? I don't think you do. I think you hit Yorkshire next. So that's the next county we'll be travelling through. I'll see you with some more incredible stories from my travels along the A1. Well, it turns out you do go through Lincolnshire, but I'm afraid not a great deal's happened. So there's not a lot to say really, apart from, I think to the left, oh yeah, Stoke Rochford Golf Course Club. That's about it. Temperature's dropped a degree. We're now on 10 degrees. So it shows the pattern. As you get further north, it does get colder. And it's got a little bit windier as well. We're just driven past Grantham. It says Grantham Historic Market Town. So I'd imagine the Great North Road would have passed through Grantham. I wonder if the travellers would have been as fed up as passing through Grantham as I am if I ever have to go through it. No offence to anybody who lives in Grantham, but what a dull place. And also terrible to navigate through it. There's a bit of traffic. I think it was near here where the incident happened with the fruit salads. But yeah, we're on our way to Doncaster now, where I've got a strange story. Now, I don't know whether many of you know, I stay in my van, I live in my van when I'm away working. It's in the back there, it's converted, there's a bed, toilet, shelves and whatnot. I've got some lights, 2 leisure batteries and all that. And I find it a lot more convenient, but I also find it a hell of a lot more cheap than paying for travel lodges or B&Bs or Airbnbs. So I do that. Anyway, this story is about Doncaster when I was in the van. I'll tell you that when we get there. Here we are, just crossing the River Trent. No, you can't see it. Just on my right hand side, I've just gone over the top of it. And sort of gone over the top of it without much of a care in the world, really. But in the days of the Great North Road and the Coaching Road, there would have been a toll over that. Somebody would have built the bridge. Somebody would have wanted their money for it, and you'd have had to pay a toll over that, as of many of the same of the bridges up and down the road. So not only did it take you forever, you also had to pay to travel on it, and there was the risk of highwaymen, robbers and stuff. So, you know, the best thing was you'd get robbed. Sometimes it could get a lot worse than that. But there's another aside as to just how arduous it was getting from London to Edinburgh 300 years ago. And here's me in a air-conditioned 2-litre diesel van, doing all right. Radio on, well, Spotify on, just chugging along. Been listening to a bit of Insight as well, the stripped back podcast for tradespeople. And the reason I'm mentioning it, like I did in the last video, is I've been invited on to have a bit of a chat about what I actually do. So it'd be interesting to see if any of you listen to it already, and if you don't, you should listen. If you're a Sparky or you want some information about the trades, get into it, get looking at it, because the 2 boys that run it, very, very knowledgeable. Like I said on the last YouTube video, it's worth a listen, particularly because I'm going to be on it soon, and you'll have more of this rabbiting on about nothing. I'm sure their content's a lot better than that though. They'll ask me quite probing questions. Also, I've just remembered, Jeremy Clarkson did this journey, didn't he? In an Audi A8. And it was to fill the tank up full to the brim and drive to Edinburgh on 1 tank. And I think that Audi A8 was a 4-litre. Looking at diesel, I've got a quarter of a tank left, so I'm going to have to find a petrol station soon. But it is 1 o'clock, 5 to 1 now. So it's dinner time or lunch time, depending on how posh you are. And I'm also approaching Doncaster, so I'll tell you that little tale about when I was in the van in Doncaster when we get there. in this particular area of road, segment of road, we have to slow down to 50 miles an hour. Now, on the way south, going home, this is where the wife usually phones me, no matter where I'm working, so she doesn't know the sort of time that's passed from me leaving site to getting home. But within a mile or two of this segment of road, she rings me to see how I'm getting on. I don't know what it is, whether she's psychological or what, but it's always this, like I said, within a mile or two of this little bit of road, she gives me a bell, and it's in between sort of Newark and Worksop, and we have a little bit of a laugh about it. Here we are, approaching the turn off to Doncaster. Doncaster, renowned for its high-end fashion shops and boutiques, expensive eateries, and Doncaster Fashion Week. Only joking. I quite like Doncaster, it's alright. Anyway, the tale was, I was working on a Tesco Express. No, that was a Tesco distribution centre. And over the road was an industrial estate where all the wagons parked on a night. So I parked over there, and I was asleep, and I think it was January. It was, I believe it was -3 outside, so it was a little bit chilly. So I was well wrapped up in the back of the van, and then I hear the door handle go, the back door handle. So what was that? You know, because your senses are quite heightened anyway. What was that? And so I just banged on the wall to let somebody know that there was somebody inside, and you're going to be, it's not going to be an easy whatever you're trying to steal. And then the side door goes. And I thought, is this fool what just wanting to fight? So I jumped up and I pulled the curtain back across here, and it was the police. So I thought, well, why is he on me? All the wagons are parked. Why has he come for me? So I opened the door, and he come over. He said, "Hiya, what you doing?" I said, "Well, I was asleep." He said, "Well, you've woken me up. What's wrong?" He said, "Oh, all it is, the wagons, we've had a report that some wagons have been screwed." So what does screwed mean? He said, "Well, they've been broken into." And I went, "Oh, well," I said, "I haven't seen anything. I've been in the back asleep." He said, "Well, where are you work? Why are you parked here?" I said, "Well, I'm working at that distribution centre over the way. You could actually see it." So I'm working over there. He said, "Oh, there's been reports that a white transit van was involved." So my better judgment took over, because I was going to say to him, "Yeah, that's what I'd do, mate. Rob a load of gear out of the back of the wagons and then park up behind them and just have a kip, you know, have a sleep while I've got hundreds or thousands of pounds worth of contraband in the back of my van." That's exactly what I wouldn't make a getaway to another industrial estate somewhere and empty the stuff and get it moved on. No, I'd just sleep behind the wagons that I've stolen. Anyway, he sort of goes through the motions. What's your name? Where'd you live? What you did? And then so all of the heat that I've now accumulated inside the van is just filtering out the door. And it's, like I said, -3 or something. There's frost on the ground. It's cold. And he starts like having a bit of a conversation with me, like, "Oh yeah, do you work here often? And do you know, are you interested? What you're interested in? Do you like football?" I went, "Mate," I said, "with all due respect, if you don't mind, all the heat that I've got in the van is now escaped. I'm now freezing. It's 1 in the morning. I'm getting up for work soon. Do you mind, being on your way," type of thing. So he's, "Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't realise. thought, who is this? Like Inspector Clouseau? Absolute brainless. I'd have to be the idiot criminal of the entire year to steal the things that he said have been stolen, and then park behind the things that have been stolen from, and just go to sleep. Anyway, that's Doncaster for you. I don't mind it. The first time I ever tried a Greggs sausage roll dipped in a cup of soup from Greggs. Very nice indeed. I don't know whether that's a Doncaster thing or whether I made it up, but it was very nice. Anyway, I don't know. I'm gonna sort of try and get the times together of how long I've been on the road now. But yeah, I definitely need to stop shortly to get some diesel and something to eat. So fuel for both parties. See you soon. We've just come past the turning for York off the A1, which is the end of Ermine Street. So now effectively the A1 changes to Deer Street to take us from York north to Edinburgh. But like most weary travellers, I must stop and refuel and maybe get some oats and hay for my horse in the form of diesel. So I think I'm going to stop in Wetherby, which again, pretty old town, and you would probably have had to cross the river there on one of the toll bridges. So I'll see what I can get. I think I'm only going to a supermarket. I'm not getting anything spectacular, but it's cheaper diesel, isn't it, in supermarkets? Oh, there I am, all full up. It was pretty much a halfway stop. Had 2 steak slices, which weren't very nice, 2 pepperamis, which were just like pepperamis, a bag of oysters, incredible crisps, a Yorkie, and a drink of orange Lucozade. I got a couple of other things, but they're just sitting on the seat for maybe later on if I get peckish and I don't want to stop. But if that was ye olden times, I'd have had to stop, sort of an in-out for the night, get the horses settled. Well, I wouldn't have had to, somebody else would have, but in, food, a couple of drinks, bed, and then back at it in the morning. So by the 1800s, I'm like sort of breaking my journey down into 4 stages. Each 100 mile would have been a day's travel, depending on weather and, you know, getting stopped by a highwayman or things like that. So I'm breaking it down into 100-mile increments, which would have been a day's travel back in the 1850s, and it's taken me an hour and a half, 2 hours, or thereabouts, hour and 3/4. So I'm well into Yorkshire now, and then the next county is going to be County Durham, I believe, because as you know, Yorkshire is awfully big. But hopefully there'll be no incidents and I can get my mind back on track and think about anything interesting. Had I still been living in the northeast, this would usually be the turning I'd take onto the A168, which then curiously changes into the A19. But I used to take that turning, and then you knew you had about 40-45 minutes and you were sort of home. But I managed to get out and move to Norfolk. And the funny thing was that Doncaster that I was talking about earlier on that job, I'd recently moved to Norfolk from the northeast. And as I left Doncaster, I came to the A1 and it said A1 North, A1 South. And I had to go A1 South, and that was when it sort of hit home. I don't live in the North anymore. I'm now officially a Southern resident. It's a lot warmer, I'll give it that, and rains less. I don't know whether you can read that sign there, but that says Catterick. Now, Catterick is famous for its garrison, but it's also, in my eyes, famous for one of the finest series that was ever put onto tape. And that was Catterick by Vic and Bob. By Jim Moyer and Bob Mortimer. If you haven't seen it, watch it. You can watch it on YouTube for free, I think. It is absolutely incredible. Good cast in it as well. Basically all of their mates. But it is so funny. But so underrated, and not many people who I talk to on site have watched it. So if you're a fan of Vic and Bob, I suggest you get your eyes glued onto it, because it is the best. And as we started the journey off with a slightly political, I said like about Jeremy Corbyn. In this part of the world, I don't suppose, you know, Richmond in North Yorkshire is the constituency of another politician. Some of you may be aware who it is. Truthful, stand-up guy, looks out for the populace of the country, those who are struggling to make ends meet. He's on that. His political outlook is geared towards that. I speak none other than Rishi Sunak, the unelected, might I add, Prime Minister of this country. Unbelievable, Jeff. How we've got ourselves into this situation, I'll never know. Anyway, enough about politics. I do have to inform you on something that is more important. The temperature has gone up to 13 degrees. And as the latitude increases, the temperature seems to be increasing, which goes against my experience doing this journey from south to north. But if I can say one thing about it, it is a pretty part of the world, North Yorkshire. Anyway, what we've done, 240 miles so far. Only another 160 to go. I think I might go a bit mental later on. Anyway, see you in a bit. And just in case you didn't believe me, there's the sign. North Yorkshire, Richmond. For Richmond and Swaledale, follow the A6 108. And as long as you've got over £1 million in the bank, you'll be treated adequately. We're now on the approach to the Angel of the North, and the roadworks that you can see in front of me have been here for that long I've actually forgotten when they started. But can you remember the song by Busted, the year 3000? Well, they actually changed the lyrics, and it used to be, I've been to the year 3000, not much has changed, but they've still got the roadworks, and your great-great-great-granddaughter's late for work because these honestly have been here for years upon years, and I don't know when they're thinking of finishing them. But we're now coming up to the Angel of the North. And the Angel of the North was designed by Anthony Gormley, and it is apparently the largest structure or statue or installation of an angel anywhere in the world. That's good, isn't it? And it was built by a company from my hometown, Hartlepool Metal Fabrications, which I'm sure has changed its name, and it used to be called Hartlepool Erection. Hartlepool Erection, what a name for a company. So it's just there on the right hand side. Hopefully we can see it past all of the traffic, because there is quite a bit of it. There you go. It is quite big. I think it cost £800,000 to build, which was, it's about 1.5 million now apparently. But there you go. Angel at North, or should we say Angel at the North Pit. Aye, Connie. We're now approaching the turn off for the Metro Centre, can you see there? Which is a big shopping centre, shopping mall, as the Americans would say, just off the A1. It's over to the right hand side. We'll be able to see it in a minute. But the man that built it was Sir John Hall, who used to own Newcastle United. Was chairman of Newcastle United. Now he lives in a house, an estate. So there it is. That's over there is the Metro Centre. It's quite a big thing. But yeah, you can go there and get married at Wynyard Hall, and I got invited to a wedding there. And while the evening guests were arriving or whatever it was, I went for a bit of a walk, and I walked round the estate a little bit, round the main hall, the main house. Little did I know that there was parts of it were out of bounds. So I hears a knock on the window, turned round, and Sir John Hall was shooing me off his grass. Clear off, you vagrant, he said. This isn't your property. So yeah, I got shouted at by Sir John Hall to get off his grass, who used to be the owner of Newcastle United. So I don't know, is that a brush with fame? Probably not. Anyone remember that name? Let's have a look on the sign if you can see it as we go past. That was Rothbury. Oh, I'm going to have to do a manoeuvre here. Yeah, Rothbury. Can you remember that? What happened to Rothbury? That was Raoul Moat when he went a bit silly and killed a couple of people, one of them being a policeman. But then Gaza tried to go and help him out by taking a roast chicken, some fishing rods and a couple of cans in a taxi to go and see him. Good grief, Paul. What were you thinking? Still, I suppose it goes down in folklore. And even Gascoigne's admitted himself that he was a bit worse for wear at the time, so I suppose we can forgive him for that. Not so much Raoul Moat for the murders of two innocent people, but I think Gascoigne can be forgiven. Anyway, that aside, we've just passed mile 300. And I was thinking, obviously, that the amount of times I've travelled this road, you would never ever get away with it these days. We used to go from sort of Hartlepool down the A1 to London in the back of a transit van. Now, what's strange about that? Well, we used to just get a normal transit van, not a crew cab or anything like that. And we'd put an 8x4 sheet of ply in the back, balanced on bricks, balanced on the wheel arches, balanced on concrete blocks. Everybody would get a sleeping bag and you'd sleep across the van. And you'd have, 5, 6 people in there. And the youngest, which usually was me, ended up sleeping at the back doors. And that's where you get like the majority of the noise, but you get the draft. Because the doors would never shut properly. Thousands of miles I've done doing that. Up and down the A1. Unbelievable. Like I said, you would never get away with it now. The police would tear a strip off you. But yeah, strange old things you used to do to save a bit of money. And we're up into Northumberland now, and it's still 12 degrees. Unbelievable. I think the thermometer's broken on the car, on the van, I'm pretty sure of it. It can be warmer here than it is in London, for sure. But this takes us up past Alnwick, and obviously you've got Alnwick Castle, where they filmed some of the Harry Potter stuff. And I got told a story that a friend of a friend had booked a wedding there, and they got a phone call and said, "Oh, your wedding's been double booked." I said, "Yeah, we've had this wedding booked for 2 years. How can you double book it?" And they said, "Oh, sorry, it has been booked." So they started doing a bit of investigation, and it turns out that I think the first Harry Potter movie was out, and it had been double booked for a child's birthday. Now obviously if you're booking Alnwick Castle for a child's birthday, you've got some money and you've got some clout as well, you've got some pull. And they investigated and found, and eventually, it was after the event, they found out that it was for Brooklyn Beckham's birthday. So David and Victoria Beckham ruined the people's wedding. That was nice, wasn't it? That was nice of them. But then another interesting fact. On our drive up the entirety of the A1, and I'm stuck behind a tractor with a load of hay on the back of it now. So we're doing 30 miles an hour. But isn't it pretty, look? Nice blue sky, fluffy white clouds, and it's a nice place to be, really. Not a bad day out. Another interesting fact about Alnwick Castle, they've got Alnwick Castle and Gardens, they've got a poison garden. Now that contains about 100 or so poisonous plants. Some of them do things to you which, it might give you a bad tummy or give you a rash or something, but there is some of them in there that will actually kill you. And you can walk around and the people point them out to you as well. Obviously hemlock will be in there, a deadly nightshade and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, they've got a garden of things that will literally end your life. So I would advise not to go there if you're feeling depressed. So Over in the distance, way over yonder, over there, is Holy Island. I think you can just see the old monastery over the causeway. But people do still live over there on the island, and twice a day it's completely cut off from the mainland by the sea. But on the mainland each year they have a festival, the Lindisfarne Music Festival, and me and a bunch of my friends formed a band quite a while ago, and we actually played there. So that was quite an achievement for us, getting on that festival. It was there's 30,000 people attended. I'm not saying 30,000 people watched us, but you can go and look at it and see the acts that were on there, and there's some good acts. I think the year we were on, Showhawk Duo were on, who do the guitars, but they play old dance classics with the guitars. They were on, and there was a couple of others. So we had a go at that in my younger days. And I did once go over to the island, just as I was driving past, just because I'd never been before. And I was actually working in Edinburgh. I finished early on the Thursday and drove down. I was working on, it was a university campus, and they were building a big indoor pitch, football pitch, and that football pitch was used by a team from Edinburgh, and I don't know which one. I shall have to find that out. But yeah, it was a good old job that. I went up, and there was, he said there's 80, was it 80 or 40? 3-core 2.5s to do, and then a couple of 25 mils and whatever else, 4-core 25s. So I said, well, you're going to have to give me a good price for them, because it's a long way to go and whatever. And I think I got £20 an end for the 3-core 2.5s. It was a while ago. Anyway, when I got there, started on the job, started glancing the cables, and a guy came up to me and went, "Oh, you can't terminate those." I said, "Well, I think, yeah, I can. I mean, they're only 3-core 2.5s. He goes, "Oh, no. He said, "They're for the lights, and our company has to terminate them due to the warranty of the lights and all the rest of it, and the testing and stuff. We have to put them away." So I said, "Oh, okay, then no problem." So I went from glanding them and terminating them to just glanding them, but I still got £20 an end. So 40 times, 800 quid. And I was like, yes, boy. And it took me, and I did the others, some 4-core 4-core 25 mils. And it took me a day and a half. I was absolutely buzzing. Couldn't believe it. That was a long time ago, that. What would it be? 8-9 years ago or something? So that was a proper touch. I was over the moon with that. We're getting up towards Berwick upon Tweed now, going past Haggerston Castle. Now, a caravan park. I've never been myself, but quite a few people who I know have been, and they've said it was quite good. But have you heard the little story about Berwick upon Tweed? Now, Berwick upon Tweed is the most northern town in England, more or less. You go past Berwick upon Tweed, and you're in Scotland. It was at war with Russia for 110 years or something. So this small town in northern England was at war with one of the greatest superpowers in the world for 110 years, and they didn't know. And what actually happened was, the way that the war was begun, Queen Victoria signed the declaration of war, or her government did. Then she signed the treaty to end the war and never included Berwick in the signing of the treaty. So I don't know what it would have been. Great Britain and the Commonwealth and Northern Ireland and whatever else, Scotland, hereby settle their grievances with Russia over the Crimean War, but never included Berwick-upon-Tweed, because Berwick-upon-Tweed had its own place in the declaration because of the amounts of time that it changed back and forth from Scottish rule to English rule, and back and forth. About 14 times it changed. Anyway, yeah, Berwick-upon-Tweed was at war with Russia for 110 years before the Russians came over in the 1960s and said, look, everything's all right, we don't want a war, we don't want to scrap with you. And the mayor of Berwick said, the people of Russia can rest easy in their beds. Berwick-upon-Tweed shows them no ill manner. It would have been a lovely story if it was true. Berwick-upon-Tweed wasn't included in the declaration of war, therefore it didn't really matter if it was missed off the treaty as well, because it just wasn't on there anyway. So they weren't at war, but it became part of the folklore of Berwick-upon-Tweed, which I think, you know, it's a good story, isn't it? But I'm nearly there now, so effectively I'll get to Berwick, turn left at the roundabout, drive along a few mile, and then I'll be officially in Scotland. Getting there. According to the mile marker sign there, we've got 56 miles to go until we get to our destination. Good grief, that's taken a while. So there we go. There's people on a bus trip taking photographs of it. Welcome to Scotland. Have a nice day. It's 10 degrees. Sun's out, but it's 10 degrees. Chilly round the willy. Now travelling through East Lothian towards Dunbar and where the power station is, but A long time ago, there was a man reported to live round here called Sawney Bean. And there's a story that needs telling. Now, Sawney Bean. Sawney Bean and his wife, Black Agnes, lived in caves around the coast of East Lothian. Now, obviously people travelled up along the Great North Road and Deer Street and all that towards Edinburgh. And him and his gang, that consisted in the end of his 14 children and some of his grandchildren, they were reportedly to be 45 strong, murdered and robbed travellers on the way to and from Edinburgh. And to disguise the crimes, ate them. I suppose it was a good source of protein, but they used to pickle the remains of the people in barrels of various different liquids and leave them in the caves along the coast. Now, some of them would get washed out and wash up on beaches and leave obviously locals to be perplexed as to what was going on. The missing travellers were said to have been eaten by animals because wolves would have been prevalent in the area, so it could have been that. I'm not sure where the bears were, but definitely wolves. But some of his grandchildren were born incestuously because of the secretive nature of the clan that he created, old Sawney Bean. They couldn't really have outsiders coming in and finding out what they were actually up to. And it continued, reportedly, for 25 years. And they reckon he killed over 1,000 people. How many he ate, nobody obviously knows, but I'm glad they caught him. Wouldn't fancy getting a flat tyre around here. End up with a knock on the head and your arms and legs missing. Anyway, I've got about less than 50 miles now. It's been a long old journey from this morning. It's 5:20. I can't recall what time I actually set off. I think it was 10 o'clock. I think it was round about 10 o'clock when I set off. So that would make about 7 hours, but I did stop. Traffic's been pretty good, but I do need to sleep. Whew, we're on the home stretch now, heading into Edinburgh city centre, and I've just got to try and stick to the A1 because it's trying to take me different ways. But hopefully I'll manage it, and that'll be the full length. I think it was 404 miles. Not quite sure how long it's taken me, but I shall tally that up at the end. Hopefully I'll see you there. There we go, city centre A1. Down that road there. Well, that's it. That's as far as I can go on the A1. It stopped right in the centre of Edinburgh, so I am going along. Is it Princess? No, I'm not, am I? I don't know. Anyway, I'm heading to Haymarket now, and that ends my epic journey up the whole length of the A1 in the centre of Edinburgh. Wow. That was something else. That was a long old slog. It's fun though. Enjoyed it.